So, hi, thanks for joining us. Today we're here with the phenomenal Ms. Emma Murray. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Emma is a coach, hypnotherapist, psychotherapist. You are the coach and psychotherapist for the Richmond Football Club. And as soon as they're back from their hiatus, you'll be back with them.
Well, that's a great unknown at the moment.
Yeah, true. And my dog's just arrived. Hello. And you're also someone who probably has done tremendous good for a lot of people in the community because your family experienced trauma a few years ago. I think it was 2016. Yeah. And I'll let you tell your story around that. And from that, there were so many parallels that I could see, and not to diminish what you've experienced, but one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you was the parallels of how do we deal with trauma, and is it post-traumatic stress or is it post-traumatic growth, and how do we navigate that? But anyway, I'll throw to you. Share what you'd love to share and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And I think the AFL part is one of my, big part of my story and probably what people know me for. But the AFL and my success in the AFL really was a flow-on effect from the trauma that you alluded to. So I have 4 children, and my second eldest son, Will, he, a couple of weeks shy of his 14th birthday, jumped off a pier with a group of friends and broke his C5, C6 vertebrae and sustained a spinal cord injury that left him with no feeling or movement from the chest or shoulders down. And anyone that's life gets turned upside down in a moment, and not just Will's life, but our life and our community's life, they will know that it is like being thrown into a hurricane. There is just so much to do. And with spinal cord injury, you have to renovate houses, and you have to get carers and everything else. And I remember a specific moment very clearly where I was taken into a little room. Will was in ICU. He was still in a coma from nearly drowning. And they said to me, Emma, spinal cord injury the grief of spinal cord injury is worse than death. It will last a lifetime. It will never go away. The reality is that you will need close to $1 million a year to look after your son. And this was not an insured accident. And really, spinal cord injury patients, they don't get out of hospital within a year because the people on the outside are not ready for it. They don't have their stuff together. They don't have carers and houses and everything else like that. And I remember making a really firm decision in that moment that I really needed to find a way to take action, take my best action, despite the grief and despite the trauma. And it was really conflicting for me because I was a qualified mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher. And mindfulness-based stress reduction is around promoting relaxation and reducing stress. And here I was in this situation where it's like, if I waited to be relaxed or I waited for the stress to be reduced, I would never take any action. I had to find a way to move forward despite what I was experiencing. And for the first time, I had this clarity around the role of mindfulness in terms of getting present, and that I used that enormously to really get very present on where I was, what was going on, what was the doctor saying, what information did I need, who did I need to speak to, what do we need happening. But then it was like I put another layer on top of that of how to step into my strengths. And from there, that's what created, I guess, I now call it sort of high performance mindfulness. It created a blueprint for how I went back and taught Richmond Football Club. So we made a decision at the time of Will's accident. Will broke his neck the day before pre-season started. And we made a decision as a family that I would keep working in football because Will was an elite player himself. And so I would go back into the club each day and I would start sharing with them these lessons that I was learning from my own experience around that it's okay to feel scared but then find a way to step into your strengths anyway. And we came up with this blueprint, which involves steps around self-awareness and then acceptance and then identifying your strengths and finding out the actual physiology of those strengths and stepping into it. So it was so much more than mindfulness. And, you know, we watched Richmond. They had a lot of different ingredients in making their cake, but one of them was this mental framework. And they went from 13th on the ladder to premiers in a year.
Congratulations.
And, you know, they hadn't won a premiership in 37 years.
Oh.
And watching these young boys actually start putting their focus on their strengths rather than what they weren't able to do, what they couldn't do, what they were scared of doing, what wasn't working. They just started to really go into, what does my best look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And they just kept stepping into it, which was the same that I was doing with spinal cord injury.
Wow. That's incredible. I didn't know you had a blueprint. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's it. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
No?
So we'll get to that. Where are you seeing the parallels? And I don't want to assume anything or presuppose about you, but are you seeing parallels between having to manage a trauma that was unique to your family versus all the individual traumas right now that are going on around the world, but are being experienced on a global level?
Oh, absolutely. And I say our family had a dress rehearsal for what was going on. And I see layers within that. One of the most obvious layers I see is that Will was, before his accident, he was an athlete who represented Australia at a world championships in being
Yes.
captain of the state football team, you know, rep soccer. And in one instant, he had that ripped away from him where he had to sit still inside, in a chair, in a bed. It's sort of what we're doing, right? It's like, no, you can't go and do that, and you can't go and do that. And watching him find ways to stay connected to people and to stay competitive and to stay passionate, it's like he did it better than anyone I know. So I do get a little bit frustrated that people are like sitting in this, you know, I'm bored and, you know, there's nothing to do and this is terrible. And
how can anyone be bored when we have an opportunity? We're encouraged to take time to work on ourselves, to build our relationships, to build our minds.
Yeah.
Unless we're in essential services, we're literally being encouraged. I think one of the things that amazes me about Will and what you're sharing is that he had to be with himself.
Had to. No
matter what. And so many of us are so addicted to finding ways to distract ourselves from ourselves.
Yes. Can I just share can I have a rant for a moment?
You may rant.
Before isolation, before coronavirus, we are patterns of behavior that, you know, we're just every day living out the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same, you know, actions, wishing, hoping, praying that it would change. You know, it changed for me in spinal cord injury. It wasn't the change I wanted, but having that something come in and just change my life in an instant meant that I was able to go off on this pathway of growth that I nearly feel guilty about because it came out of such trauma, but it was incredible, right? And we sit in our lives hoping, wishing, praying for it to be different. You know, I want a different job, I want to feel different, I want to have a different relationship. But we can't, because we're just in this, I call it this B game loop. From the moment we wake up, we're in this B game, it's part of my, you know, framework, but we're just the same patterns repeating. And then nature comes along and it gives us this, you know, pause that looks really terrible, but it's this incredible break in that pattern of behavior that we could have ever asked for. You were wanting it to change, guys. You were sitting there saying, I don't like this, I wish I was better at that, I hate this, I want that. Here comes along something that has just cut off that pattern of behavior. And now we just take those thoughts and feelings that were holding us back and we just twist them and adapt them to life in isolation. So now I'm having 5 Zoom calls a night, having drinks with people on Zoom. And I'm having Zoom calls with people I haven't seen from kindergarten just to fill the empty space, just so that I don't have to sit with these thoughts and these feelings.
Yeah.
And For me, I'm like, if I look at spinal cord injury, went on this journey any moment that I was not in the hurricane of working with athletes and renovating a house and caring for Will. I was meditating, and not in the form of meditation that I had been taught as a mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher, not in an app, not in a formal, take your attention from your feet to your arms, in a just give me answers, like, please, let me just listen to the answers, give me my next direction. And I had this incredible journey where I learned that I have everything. It's like I have this inner guidance system that is pretty much always right if I give it the space to really talk and I give it the space to listen. And we all have that space right now, and we're just filling it with layers and layers of noise. 10 home workouts a day. Exercise is really important, but perhaps if we balance it with a little bit of stillness and quietness and hear and journal and daydream and imagine and write business plans and,
get to know ourselves.
Get to know ourselves.
Get ourselves. Viktor Frankl, I was researching just before we came on together, and he said, when we can't change the situation, we are then challenged to change ourselves.
Absolutely. And
so we can't change this situation. This is how it is for the next little future.
Yeah.
So we are forced. So there's only two things you can change: the world around you or how you see the world around you. That's all we have. And given we can't control and influence right now the world around us to the extent that we're used to, we are forced to go within. And I appreciate your rant. I'll double down on your rant and say, well, given we can't control and influence this for the next little future, we have an opportunity now to go within and ask ourselves, well, what do I now care about? So this is what my husband and I are doing. What do we've, as you say, it's a reset and we get to choose. How do we want our future to be now? So we're making changes in our businesses because of those thoughts, feelings, and conversations.
Yeah.
How do we want our relationships to be? What relationships do we want to deepen? What is it we're valuing? Because everything's stripped away. We're left with we either value it or we don't.
Yeah.
This is a golden opportunity for that.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought I had the dream job, working with athletes and I've spent a lot of time in this isolation going, how much of that was ego of mine, or how much was it actually because that's the work that I want to do? What parts of it was me just trying to prove a point?
Yes, I get that. With my business, the Coaching Institute.
Yeah.
Because my ego says I can control things. The great illusion is the ego says you need to control things. Ego is all about control. Well, that's gone now. Well, to some extent. And so how do I want it to be?
That's right.
Oh.
And you can look at that as scary. I mean, I've clung to I've worked bloody hard to, be a female in a male's world,
Yeah.
I could sit here and look at the AFL falling over, motorsport stopped, Olympics has been put off for a year. I can look at that as everything I worked for is gone.
Yeah.
But I'm actually looking for it as awesome. I now get to choose which parts of that are really serving what I want to do.
Yeah.
How will I re-pick them up? What will it look like? What parts do I want to grow? What parts am I ready to let go? And I never would have found those answers. I never would have. And I'm really excited to see where that's going to take me.
Yeah, I love that. For me, we pivoted really fast. I think you know this with the Coach Institute. We're an events company. Basically, we coach train, but it's all through live events, face-to-face events. We went from over 100 events a year face-to-face to online in 5 days. So that was incredible. That's the hard yards out there, the pivot we take care of out there. But the pivot in here isn't as easy to do because we get used to our intuition as a human being is to hang on to what we know and what is familiar, even if it is uncomfortable and maybe isn't aligned with our values. So this is an opportunity to question that.
Yeah.
Because the pivot inside, is this aligned with what my values are now, which isn't the same values as I had when I started it 17 years ago. Is it aligned with who I want to be in my next iteration of me? So the pivot outside that everyone is talking about is not as important, I don't believe, as the pivot we're prepared to do in here. If we want the world to transform when we come through this, we must be the transformation. It will not be in how retail is done. That is a superficial change.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a couple of things about that. Firstly, I talk about, you know, if you understand soccer, you have a term in soccer about settling the ball, you know, where someone just holds the ball, let's get it all set up. And I feel like for me too, I had to pivot really quickly about how can I take my work online, because I was speaking at events, you know, and they all fell over. So I think we all worked really hard, and I feel like now let's just settle the ball.
Yeah.
And let's just go, okay,
yeah.
Now let me use this time wisely. I don't need to clean a million cupboards out and have, you know, 50 bags of oats in the cupboard and this and that. Let me just take a breath. One thing that spinal cord injury taught me, and it's took me nearly 4 years to learn. So, you know, I appreciate that the listeners, this is not an overnight thing. I had to learn to sit in the belief and the trust and the knowingness that everything is going to be okay. Yeah. And it's a feeling. It's not a thought. It's not a thought. It's not a, well, it's going to work out like this and it's going to be okay because I know that answer. It's this feeling that I describe it to my athletes like the script has already been written. It's a great script. It's got ups and it's got downs and it's got characters and it's got, you know, heroes and everything else. But the overall pitch, you know, theme of this script is that you're going to be okay. And that for me has come from a lot of closing my eyes and picturing it being okay. And those pictures are constantly different. Sometimes it's me and Will having a conversation laughing about, wow, how bad was spinal cord injury? Remember that time? Sometimes it's me being up on stage doing what I love. Sometimes it's, you know, my family just sitting around. I'm just constantly try and remove that doomsday daydream that we all sit in all day and put it with a whatever I want, however creative I want to be. But it's about getting in the feelings of, I don't know where this is going to end up, but it's going to be okay. I found when I do that, I am a lot more in tune with my intuition, because my intuition's not coming from fear. It's just coming from, if you knew it was going to be okay, how do you want to do this? What decision do you want to make? If someone already had the results written in the envelope that you were going to win TATSOTO, how are you going to, you know, what are you going to do? So that's...
So one of the things I noticed, the human intuition is to want to know what's going to happen next. We are primed to avoid uncertainty.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is completely counterintuitive.
Completely. You know, to the athletes who, particularly when they're injured, I say to them, you know, what we tend to do when we're injured, I'm just using an athlete as an example here, they're hoping, wishing, praying that they're going to get better in time for the finals. Please let me get better. Please let me get better. And I use an analogy. I say, okay, if you were broke and you bought a TATSOTO ticket, you would be hoping and wishing that you would win TATSOTO. And it's a very heavy feeling. It's a very fear-based feeling, and it leads you to make decisions and take actions from a lot of fear and lack. And I said, if someone worked for TATSOTO and they had this little envelope and they opened it up and they said, hey, you know what? I've seen the numbers. On Friday, you're going to win TATSOTO. Don't tell anyone. How would you be going about each day? You'd be like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it's going to be like this. And so I try to get the injured players to sit in this feeling. I've already been told I'm playing in the grand final. I've already been told that my injury is fine. How would you go about your rehab? How would you go about your conversations with your coaches? How would you go about your diet, knowing that you're already going to play that game? And it changes it from that, oh, hope and wish and pray I don't lose my job in isolation, to what do I want to do in isolation? What can I grow? What can I learn? Because I know that's all going to be fine when I come out of here. So what do I want to spend this time doing?
So one of the things, the other things Frankel talked about was the moment the suffering transforms the moment we let go of the expectation.
Absolutely.
Because you had all expectation about how your family would be and the trajectory for your son. Yeah. It was preordained. This was going to be the magical experience. And here we go, into the sunset. And that ended one day when he was 14. So How can you walk us through how, and I get that it's taking years and we'll always be doing it, it'll take the rest of our lives and many days we don't do it, we're human. But what are some of the ways you transition from this is, well, however you described it negatively, to I can handle it not being the way I thought it was going to be? How did you release yourself from the need for certainty or the need to have an expectation of how this should be to having to embrace how it is?
Yeah, so it goes in different phases. The first phase for us was massive action. We got very, rather than sitting in, why did this happen? What if this happened? We just looked completely, what do we need to do? So and this is part of my framework as well, we stay out of how am I doing and stay in what do I need to do. So when we're in how am I doing, we're constantly looking at what we expected it to be like, and the answer is never good. So if an athlete is like, how am I doing? Even if they're on 5 possessions, well, they always wanted 10 possessions. So the answer is never good. Whenever you're checking on how am I doing, it's never great. So we stayed in, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And we busied ourselves, which a lot of people were like, you were in denial. And I'm like, denial doesn't wash with me. Denial is when like I'm looking at something going, no, I don't want that. This is just not looking at it. It's not, I wasn't in acceptance. I'm just like, I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at what I need to do.
Yeah. And
so we got really active in what we need to do. We made very clear boundaries around how we would, can I tell you a story? The day Will was injured, so he got taken to the Royal Children's Hospital, it wasn't looking good. They had to take him off to an MRI to work out whether this was an actual spinal cord injury or not. And there was my husband, me, mum and dad, my parents. And we're walking down a hallway to the MRI and the hospital was deserted. And I stopped everyone in the corridor and I pulled everyone together and I said, no matter what the result of this MRI, we make an agreement right here, right now. We never turn on each other. We don't go there. It's off limits. You did this, you said that. Why did you not go to the beach with him? We never ever, no matter where this ends up or what it looks like, we never turn on each other. And we've had to go back to that agreement a number of times and catch ourselves. Yes. So we made firm agreements around, and people are like, how do you cope with your husband in isolation? It's like, we just agree. We don't go there. It's just a choice. We don't go there. I can't explain it any more than that.
Well, that meant you created a safe space for each other to process things the way you needed to.
Yeah. Rather
than redirecting the anger, the resentment, the grief onto someone. That's powerful. Yeah. I bet you had to revisit that a few times. I imagine I won't speak for you. I would have had to revisit that a number of times.
Yeah, like so many times we had to revisit that. And there were numerous times where, maybe my father brought it up or my, son, Nick brought it up. Hey, we agreed not to go there and really catch ourselves with that. So we did make a decision to go down this route together rather than apart. And the statistics post-trauma of divorce are just massive.
Absolutely.
We got busy. We got very structured. And again, this is where isolation is very in line with this. We just became so structured. We formed subcommittees. We formed, we put committees together. You're on research, you're on fundraising, you're on, and this was all while Will was still in ICU and still.
Fantastic.
And we just treated it like a business, really. And, we were just so deliberate about things. I wasn't particularly strong in my body. I used to be an athlete. I'd let that go. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to be strong because we're going to have to lift Will. I have to, get a trainer. Like everything was sorted out from a position of survival and thrive rather than, just let it beat us. Acceptance is
So one of the things you did was, from a psychology point of view, you couldn't control and influence out there, but you did totally empower yourselves with what you could control and influence in your environment. You took care of your business to the extent that you could. And we have that choice today. All of us have that choice today.
Yeah. I reflect on when Will was in the hospital, and I probably was unhealthy in how I did that to the nurses. You know, that was, I was very passive aggressive to the nurses in my need to control everything.
Yeah.
I did not at any point want to give anyone the power. I did not want to give my power away. So it's like, if you want to give Will a drug, I'm going to research that drug. I'm going to speak to the people. You do not own spinal cord injury. We own this. And we, you know, we've done things like, right from the start, no one was to use the word quadriplegia in front of Will. That was a label. He wasn't a quadriplegic. He had a spinal cord injury. Yes. You know, injuries improve. Injuries get better. You're not limited to this label. We set up a hospital at home so he could get out of hospital after 3 months. You know.
Wow. Kudos.
So we just took action, really, but there's a difference, right, between taking action from fear and taking action from your strengths. And this is something that really I took into Richmond, and the people at Richmond were also on their own journeys around this. Damien Hardwick, the coach, and Trent Cotchin, the captain. It was like, let's not expect everyone to do spinal cord injury the same way. Let's not expect everyone to do isolation the same way. But let's work out what we're good at and what we're strong at, and bring that to the table and really step into that. And I was good at captain of the ship. My husband was good at hands-on, you know, doing the caring stuff that I wasn't good at. Let's work it out, and overall you'll get a balanced team, is how we look at it.
So firstly, what you did was you got proactive about what you could control and influence to ensure the best possible pathway through this, given this is what it was.
Yeah.
Then you began focusing on who, and then you made a commitment that everyone's in this together and we don't get to turn on each other and start the blame game.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, wow, that's powerful. And then, so no judgment as well? That's huge.
We went great at that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, not my strong point. But anyway, we tried.
It was on the to-do list.
Yeah.
And then the next part was, where are our strengths? Where do they lie? So what can we bring to this to feel empowered, because we're playing to our strength rather than having to do something that's proactive on the to-do list, but is complete grudge work, or we just really begrudge doing it. How am I doing?
Great. And we very much chose our perspective. And isn't that, like, this is what is the difference between some people doing coronavirus well and some people not. Yeah. And it felt bizarre for me. Like, I've questioned myself a lot around, God, is it massive denial? I really, you know, people expect you, if you don't look like you're on the floor crying and not getting dressed, they think you're not coping. They think you're not doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And I very early on, and maybe it's because of my line of work, I've seen people crippled by anxiety. I've seen people crippled by addiction, you know, can't leave their house. To me, Will had a form of an injury that was going to change his world. But that happens to a lot of people, right? Like, a lot of people are trapped because of things. And I just, to me, never looked at it through the lens of quadriplegia and permanent, you know, that this was a permanent life sentence, even though spinal cord injury sort of is. I just looked at it as, well, if my kid had crippling anxiety, I would get them the right help, and I would look for help from, you know, a therapist. I'd look at their nutrition. I'd look at their, and I've just done the same thing with Will. So the perspective that we look at it through is very different to how another family would look at quadriplegia. And perspective is everything.
So how did you go handling people? Because I have guilt over the fact that I'm handling this really well. I also accept that I'm very privileged in that I have myself set up well in terms of my health, my living circumstance, my finances. I know I've set myself up well, never anticipating this. And I kind of want to keep it quiet and play it down that I'm doing well in these times, because there's an anticipation, and that isn't taking away at all for anybody who's not doing well. That isn't me in any way saying you should be doing well because I am. How did you navigate people implying to you that you weren't meant to be doing so well?
So at the start, I just lied. To be honest, I just told them what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Because
so you were taking care of them instead of them having the emotional space to take care of you.
Yeah. I disconnected from a lot of people because I felt like I couldn't give them what they wanted. Yeah. I disconnected from a lot of people because I felt I was on this massive journey of growth, and I felt guilty that was coming out of my son's trauma.
Yeah.
And so that created worse, because people like one day knew me as this, and then they would hear me in the media and think, how did she get there? You know, we thought she was at home for the last 4 years in fetal position. But then I have this really clear analogy in my mind that I say to people, and it's given me peace around this, that I feel like life is like this really bad storm, and we're all in it. Like it is. You know, life is pretty tough. Take spinal cord injury away. Most people each day are walking out into a storm. They're getting beaten around, a bit off balance, but they get by. They come home. They're a bit wet. They're a bit bedraggled. They get up. They do it again the next day.
Yep.
For some of us, there is a moment in time where that storm upgrades to a hurricane. And your only choice for survival is to find the center of that hurricane, the stillness in the middle of that hurricane. And it's a survival thing. It's like the quicker you get there, the quicker you're not going to get flattened by a house or something else flying around the hurricane. So it is easy in a way to get there, because it's like, if I don't get there, I'm literally going to die. The challenge for people is to find that stillness and to find that center when their day is just a bad storm. And so now I've got it clear in my head that it's actually easier to do after massive trauma than it is to do in everyday grind. Yeah. And so I don't feel guilty about it now. I feel like it was a gift that it was sort of like, hey, we're choosing you, we're giving you something really bad, but it's going to actually make you find your stillness and your center and your growth so much quicker. I feel sorry for your neighbours who are just in a daily grind, who can't find that. Finding that stillness, that center, that, I don't like the word purpose, but that growth is so hard when you're just stuck in a daily storm. So now I can look at it and go, it was easy for me. It's you who it's difficult for.
If you can give meaning to suffering, you can handle anything. Yeah. That's it. If you can give meaning to it, you can navigate it. It's when it seems pointless or we just wish it away that it causes us so much pain. We do it to ourselves when we try to deny it or wish it away or blame the government and how they're not handling certain aspects of it. That does not help our own version of ourselves in this world. It hurts it.
Absolutely. And when something is so bad, like spinal cord injury, when it's like, I got to find $1 million a year, I've got to renovate a house, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Yeah. It's like, you know what, I just have to change my perspective, or we are not going to survive this. Yep. So in a way it is easier. It was, for 20 years before Will's accident, I was a mindfulness coach. And I remember Will in ICU in a coma, and I was doing a walking meditation up and down the hallway of ICU. And I remember saying to myself, oh, this is mindfulness. Oh, this is what they mean. You know, I taught mindfulness for 20 years. It's like, It's like, oh, I have to feel my feet on the floor and I have to feel my breath, because if I don't, my mind is going to go to a place that's so horrific that I don't think I'll ever get up again. So I have to just keep my whole attention on my feet on the floor and on my breath. Oh, this is mindfulness. Oh, I get it now.
So let's walk through that. What is mindfulness to people listening?
Oh, gosh. You know, mindfulness has been trashed. I'm just so sad for mindfulness. I just feel like it's become this word that we attach to, you know, beauty products and taking a bath and playing in the playground with our kids, or this is my way of being mindful. And it's like, mindfulness is the ability to have our attention fully in the present moment with no judgment or attachment to that present moment. So let me explain that to you in terms of spinal cord injury. In that hallway in ICU, mindfulness is literally feeling my feet on the ground, feeling my breath, and that is it. That is all that's happening in that moment. In that moment, Will is not dying. Will is not, you know, we're not going broke. You know, we're not getting divorced. None of that is happening. All that is happening is my feet is touching the ground. That is it. I remember a moment at the Royal Children's Hospital where I was standing at Will's door. And this was the start of my framework with the boys at Richmond. And I would take a breath, a really conscious breath, maybe one breath, maybe two breaths, maybe three breaths. And I would say to myself, right here, right now, all I'm doing is walking into a room to have a conversation with my son. That's all I'm doing. Nothing else is happening right now. He's not dying. We're not growing. And I remember this clarity, like, if I do this in every moment of every day, I am going to survive this bloody injury. Like, I can do this. There is no moment that I can't do. And if I was to describe mindfulness to someone, what I would love people to understand, and this is why mindfulness is not having a, you know, bath time with your kids or in the park. There is no, and I'm going to say this twice, there is no struggle in the present moment. Let me say that again. There is no struggle in the present moment. And people say, how can you say that? You know, that moment when, you know, you have to tell Will he's never going to walk again. Words coming out of my mouth and saying to Will, you're not going to walk again. The struggle is not in that. The struggle comes from all the layers of how can I watch my son in pain? What will he think of this? You know, why did I let him go to the beach? What's our future going to look like? All of that sits outside of that moment. In that moment, in any moment, there is no struggle. The struggle comes from us either jumping to, well, what's the next moment going to look like? Or how did we get here? And in isolation.
Well, the ego saying it shouldn't be like this.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I can't tell you how many times I go to right here, right now, Emma, like as a survival tool, right here, right now. And we've had some hellish moments with spinal cord injury. As a mum, you want to take that pain away from your kid. You just want to remove it from them. And I have to catch myself and go, I can't. Right here, right now, this is it. This is just it. And the pain and the struggle is coming from all the layers I'm putting on top of it. You know, people say to me, well, have you talked to Will about this? And what does Will think about that? And, oh, he must really miss football. And I'm like, I haven't talked to him about anything like that. They're like, well, what, do you not have a good relationship with your son? And I'm like, who am I to come in and label Will's experience as bad? Who am I to come in and label what Will is experiencing as painful? It probably is. He's not using that label. It's not my place to put that label on it. And we just label everything. We're labeling isolation as good or bad, or this situation as this or that. Like, if we just sit in right here, right now, I get to do a puzzle with my kids. That's it.
You seem to coach very similarly to me. My coaching is there's no good or bad. Huh?
What, with a sledgehammer?
Yeah, I think we're both pretty blunt. But there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong. There's no labels in the moment. The moment is the moment.
Yeah.
Let it be what it is and appreciate what it is rather than trying to label it. The moment we label it, we limit it.
Yeah.
And we put boundaries around it, and it has to be that. And we delete every other perspective that it could be.
Yeah.
And that's what we teach as well. There's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. Remove the label, remove the judgment. And that's part of what you're saying around mindfulness. I've never made that connection before.
Yeah. It's hard to do. Like, that's why I feel like mindfulness has been mindfulness is hard work. And I guess the way I teach it now and my step-by-step process makes it easier. You know, I believe that mindfulness in today's world is just near impossible. We've got these things called phones that when social media was created, it was created like you just get an update on your friends and family's posts. That was it. You know, we occasionally looked at it, whatever. But now with the way it works with likes and comments and everything else, it's become this constant device that we walk around with, which is either saying you're good enough, you're not good enough, you have enough, you don't have enough. So to be able to have this device in our life and as a human sit in no judgment and no fear, and it doesn't make sense, right? It's just too hard.
We're pushing all of how we see ourselves out there, and that's the wrong place to look for how we should be seeing ourselves. It's exactly the wrong direction.
But to ask yourself just to be present with that and let the feelings be and not attach to those feelings is like, you'd have to be top level monk to be able to do that.
Yes.
And I reckon if you gave a monk a mobile phone, he probably wouldn't be able to do that. So my framework, you know, that I use with my athletes is the first step is self-awareness. And we actually have to be aware of a model, and we call it A game and B game. It's just a simple way to differentiate, because I'm working with people who are stepping into performance moments. But here's the thing, we're all stepping into performance moments. You know,
yes,
this conversation is a performance moment.
Yeah.
A conversation with my kids is a performance moment.
Yeah.
You know, so the very first place we start is self-awareness, actually closing our eyes and going back to a time where we did things well and really getting a clear picture of what that looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what am I focused on, what am I doing, how am I talking, how am I moving, how am I acting. We get a picture of what the B game looks like as well, because the B game becomes our warning sign. It's like, how do we know that we've got to shift if we don't actually know what our B game looks like?
And you coach people to help them know their B game.
Yeah, and we just go.
Because I don't think people get there. Most people would not know how to get to that comparison or assessment themselves.
Yeah, so they're tools that you would teach in your courses. You know, they're tools around closing your eyes, going back to a particular time, stepping into it, bringing it to life. So not difficult tools at all, but where, you know, it's interesting, people can tell you what they're not good looks like. Oh yeah, I do this, I do that. And they don't have any awareness of their, you know, when they're doing it well. They haven't thought about that for a very long time.
Although there are studies now that show, and this frustrates me so much, that most people, if asked if they're competent at something, will say that they are.
Wow.
Most people don't have awareness of their lack of competence in decision-making and judgment.
So then I was just about to say to you, even though they can tell you what they're not good at, they can't really tell you what it feels like and what it sounds like and what it looks like. You know, when I reflect before Will's accident, I was running in my head like this constant dialogue. I'm too busy, I'm too tired, not enough time, too many kids, when's this going to end? I was just running this dialogue with zero awareness to it. So I could tell you what I wasn't good at and what I was good at, but I couldn't tell you what it looked like and what it felt like and what it sounded like for me. And so that was a real eye-opener for me. So once we know these two states, we then can start catching ourselves in our B game more often, you know.
Which requires us to go into the meta position. so we can see both. We have to move to the third perspective so we can see first and we just have to do that. That ability to step back and see ourselves accurately, not optimistically, not pessimistically, not defensively, but accurately.
Yes.
That's really tough for people.
Yes, really tough.
Yeah.
But the more that you do it, the clearer it becomes. And it's like, and you just see these patterns. There I go speaking like that to my kids again.
Yes.
There I go, making that same excuse why not to do my exercise,
Yeah.
So we can catch ourselves quicker once we've gone through this period of self-awareness. And remember, I'm dealing with athletes. So they're out on the field. They have to have awareness of, my feet have gone flat. My shoulders have gone slumped. I've stopped talking to my teammates. I've stopped, watching the ball. So these are all warning signs that I have gone missing from the moment.
So you're doing NLP strategy elicitation and then a comparison between the two. I love it.
Yeah. And then once they have that warning sign, they have to have a mantra around acceptance. I never used to have that piece in there. And most people would know an athlete called Dusty Martin, covered in tats, finished school in year 9. He was the one that kept saying to me, when I have acceptance that it's okay to feel like that, then I'm able to shift. So we started playing around with acceptance more. So we have to have a piece of around, it's okay to be worried that you haven't touched the ball. Yeah. It's normal. It's okay.
I love it.
Yeah, that's all right. You got to actually say it to yourself. It's okay to worry that you're going to get dropped next week. And then once we've had that moment
I so agree with what you're saying. Most people skip that step.
Yeah.
They do the strategy elicitation, they do the comparison, and then what do I do about it? How do I fix it?
Yeah.
I have a model for this. It seems you'll probably have more to it, but mine is be aware, be accepting, and then activation. You've got to do the first two to get to is that okay, carry on.
I thought my framework was fairly unique, but no, you were years ahead of me. No, it's not a unique framework at all. What makes it work with the young, dynamic athletes is that we have really robust conversations where I call them out and go, because in your B game, the 3 biggest things in your B game is fear of failure, focus on outcomes, and fear of other people's opinions.
Yeah.
When I survey athletes, they're not worried that they kick the ball out on the full. They're worried that their teammates will hate them for it.
Yeah.
They're not worried about losing the match. They're worried about their mistake being shown up at the team meeting the next day. So we have and motorsport was brilliant for me, because in motorsport, these drivers, if they make a mistake on the first corner, they're like, I've got to make it up the next corner. And we would have so many robust conversations around that. If there was ground to be made up, you're not best executing. Because what we say in our A game is best execution. It's not winning or losing. It's not winning. It's not getting the outcome you want. It's saying, I took my strengths. If my A game, because we end up with a model where it's like my A game is I'm up on my toes, my shoulders are back, I run my running patterns, and I keep my feet. Someone else's A game is going to be completely different. That's your A game. When you bring it to that moment, you're best executing that moment, and you have to accept there's nothing more you could have done in that moment.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
And
because if you want to really stuff with your head, think you've got to hit the goal. You've got to hit the goal. How to become a perfectionist control freak who's not happy. Just think I've got to get the goal rather than I need to experience growth. There's such a difference in focus.
And Richmond, they abandoned all their review, the way they reviewed and everything, and they shifted it to best execute. Were you in your A game? Did you best execute?
Fabulous.
If you did, great. If you didn't,
good on you.
What do we need to do? And they had the courage to do that, where other coaches don't. So it's very clinical around we best executing or you weren't. And I'd have such robust conversations with athletes who are like, no, I had to do that. Well, really, why? That's very big aimed to me. And there's such nuances of when we start going outside of our processes because of that desire to win or that fear of failure or, worried about.
Or instinctual patterns of behavior or.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even know. I think we assign meanings to things when we're only trying to justify it in hindsight.
Yeah.
We look back and go, well, that's why. That's not why. Instinctively in that moment, you had a fear and something came over you and you just acted instinctively. But now we're going to give it a logical explanation in hindsight. But really, we're just making up the territory to make it look better because our ego can't handle. We relied on instinct instead of logic. Yeah. The neocortex just went bye-bye. Yeah. One of the things I love that you're saying, to break it down, is you're focusing on the process rather than the outcome. So what's rewarded when you coach is the process is executed beautifully. The outcome will be what it will be. But as long as you're executing to you call it the A game, to your fullest ability, and you're running the strategy that we know that works, you're going to get more hits than misses. You might not get the outcome every time, but overall, 1% shift in everything you do. So being in, I don't know football, but the forward pocket and the defensive, if enough of those 1%ers happen in terms of running the strategy the way we know works, that adds up to a colossal shift in trajectory in terms of outcomes. It has to.
13th on the ladder to premiers, right?
Yes, exactly.
You can bring in a new, gun coach or a new gun player. Basically, we said if we can get more players in their A game for longer, that's our competitive advantage. And in motorsport, and you know what? The media, and I've really seen this in motorsport, the media hate it because we love sport because of the stories and the drama and everything. And A game, B game, you become very consistent.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? It's like my favorite word when I wanted to be a high performer. Be so boringly predictable. You'll do great.
And sometimes an opposition pulls a performance out of their back pocket that beats you.
Yeah.
More often than not, the people around you put their car into the wall and you just keep delivering. And it is just so beautiful to watch. I have a number of AFL players who were already senior players when I came on board, and they'll grab the junior players and they're like, you don't know how lucky you are. Like, this has changed. I wish I had this from day one, because every athlete competes and plays in fear. They're all playing fear. And most coaches coach in fear. Am I good enough? Am I doing enough? Am I going to be able to fix them? And when we just get into, these are my strengths that I can bring to the table, and I'm going to bring them to the table as best I can, and that's all I can do.
Yeah. So are they the steps? Have we got the steps now?
Okay, so then the final step, so awareness, acceptance.
Yeah.
And then it's this, we have a whole lot of anchors that you would be familiar with, anchors in place to very quickly shift from the B game to A game, because we're working with boys who are in cars and on football fields.
Do you literally create physical anchors?
Physical anchors.
You do the whole anchoring, stacking anchor technique. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, so every boy has an anchor, a physical anchor, and sometimes they have a word. It depends, but they always have a physical anchor. The reason why they always have a physical anchor is something that, again, I just sort of worked out through experience. And I think it's great for life as well. When we have a physical anchor that actually puts us into the physiology of our strengths, we're halfway there. So when we have an anchor of, I don't like public speaking, but now my anchor is shoulders back, chest out, well, now I'm going to project my voice. Yeah. Rather than like, it's like, let's make your anchor something that puts you into the physiology of your strengths. If your strength is softening and opening up, then we'll make the anchor more like that. So here's the next thing. Every Richmond coach, every Richmond player knows each other's A game and their anchor, and they know what it looks like when they're out of their A game.
Well done.
And so they can...
This is awesome.
So they can get someone else into their A game.
And how is everybody responding to it? I got to ask, we're way off track where we were going to go, but did you have any resistance? Because
Yes.
Of course I did.
Yes. Yes. So
What was
much.
it like?
Oh, well, I was there before their premiership year, and most people thought I was that little girl in the corner that just is there for ticking a box. And so I just, you know what, I just started with one player. I just did my best with that player. And then they got results that other people were like, we want a bit of that. And so I just, you know, I went and I sat in a football club for no money on cold winter nights. I just said to the VFL, which is one level down from AFL, I will just sit here and I will do my thing. They won their premiership first time in 9 years. You know, it's like, just get out there and do it and just let the results speak.
So you started in VFL and that got you recommended up to the AFL.
Yeah.
I love how your overnight success happened in just one night. I mean, you just waltzed into it, really, didn't you? Because that's what happens with everybody who makes it.
You know, I still remember my first session with an AFL player. I reckon I prepared for a week.
Yes.
I reckon I had notes and scripts and, you know, all of this stuff. And now, like, some of my best work is at halftime in a broom cupboard, you know, very quickly, like, let's reframe you and change something at that subconscious level. But, you know, if you just got to keep putting yourself out there. And I'm a bit like this with spinal cord injury. It's like, if there's a roadblock there, I'm going to go there. If there's a roadblock there, I'm going to go there. And I keep sitting with it, and I don't like that word meditation because I don't even know if that's what I'm doing. I'm just getting still and I'm listening and I ask what next, and I walk along the beach and I daydream and I, you know, have ideas.
One of the things I've noticed is that one of the things I've been thinking about is that we have all prepared for this moment, whether we thought we were preparing or not. So some of us prepared mentally to handle adversity, if that's how you define right now, because for some people it's not adversity, right. It is only for some. And some and we've all prepared ourselves to talking about strategy. Let me do this better. Everything is a strategy, as you've spoken about when you coach AFL. We'll all be running a strategy to get us to this moment. And the strategy we've been running has prepared us for this moment, or it has not. This, to me, is a wonderful opportunity to reflect. Do I run the mental strategy and the emotional strategy to handle adversity? And if I don't, what do I need to upskill here? Because this is it. You literally get to see yourself in B or A grade, A game right now. There's nowhere to hide. We're either bringing B or we're bringing A. If we don't like the game we're bringing, what are we going to do about upskilling so we can be A game? Because the time isn't changing. No one can walk away from this. No one can say, you know what, I've had enough of this.
You know, I've had that many text messages, particularly in the early days when it was all unfolding, you know, from my athletes going, wow, we're watching the globe, you know, the world population's B game is on view right now. You know, my athletes are constantly making jokes about, wow, check out, you know, this person in their B game and check out that person in their B game. And, you know, I think people get stuck and go, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. Like, what if I don't do that right? And again, this is what's so sort of a hideous blessing about something like spinal cord injury. It's like, who cares? It's better than lying on the floor in fetal position. You know, yes. I'm just going to do this because at least I'm up and I'm getting dressed. So I'd really encourage people to let go of getting it right. I particularly see in that coaching field, I've got to do one more course. I've got to do, you know, I've got to get one more certificate. I've got to do one more practicing. You know, spinal cord injury, for me, was like, you've just got to do this. Like, your family has to find $1 million a year. Your husband cannot return to work because he needs to care for your family. Just don't think about if you're going to be able to do enough, if they're going to think you're good enough. Just go and do it. You have no choice. And the action will take you somewhere, like just, and that's very much A game, B game as well. We talk about just take action that is different to where you're at now. Like, if you're sitting on the couch going, oh my God, take action that's different. Stand up and go and
just do something else. That's what we learned in NLP. Just, if you don't like the results you're getting, do something else.
Yeah.
Don't worry about doing the next perfect thing. Just do the next thing differently.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's missing for us is we've created a culture where making mistakes is shamed and blamed and named.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking over that.
Oh,
I am so over people being outed for making a mistake and for being human. Let the first person who's perfect cast that stone. We're all making mistakes. Just unfortunately, so many of them are public now. To give ourselves the freedom to fuck up's a gift.
Can I tell you this amazing moment in AFL for me where Richmond lost a game, which is a big deal in the AFL. I know not everyone understands that, but it is. And we had a forward who missed 5 goals and we lost by a goal. And at the end of the game, he, the coach, Damien Hardwick, who has just, I just think he is a shining light for embracing imperfection. Like that's the biggest change between 2016 and 17 when we won the premiership, was that shift to that our greatest strength is our imperfections.
Yeah.
He got this player up in front of the group and he said to him, you know why we love you? We love you because you got yourself into a position to have 5 shots at goal. And we're going to go back to the club and we're going to work on your technique. But whilst ever you are getting in a position to have 5 shots at goal, we're going to do great. Like, now that same weekend, because I have a lot of contacts in the AFL, another club lost a game and their goal kickers were not very accurate. The coach brought up the key forwards in front of the group and the coach said to them, I want you to look at the group and I want you to look them in the eye because you're the reason we lost today.
No, stop.
But that's commonplace in a coaching, right? Because we think we can motivate people into being better.
There is no evidence in the research, empirically or theoretically, that says that is ever going to work.
Yeah. So
shame someone into it.
Yeah. So not only did you create a whole level of shame in those, God, I could talk forever here. At Richmond, we have created an A game, B game scale.
Wow.
And so down on B game is like shame is the heaviest, worst energy you can sit in. Yeah. Then there's like guilt and fear and anger. And we get up to like, our A game is like acceptance, joy, love, and
support.
Yeah. So boys
supporting ourselves, supporting others, championing what we love to see, supporting those who are not having their best game.
So boys can look at this scale and go, oh, I was in anger and that's what I felt. And then when I did this, it got me up to acceptance. Oh, and then when I did this, I fell down to shame. So they can start to see how it plays out with how they feel and the results. But going back to that other example, not only did that coach make those key forwards not feel safe, and when we don't feel safe, we're no longer creative or take risks or anything. He sent a message to every other person in that team.
Yeah, don't risk.
Do not make a mistake or you will be shamed.
Which means don't risk.
Yeah, so in that moment, every player unlinked arms, they went into themselves and went, I don't even want the ball. Don't do anything.
No. So there's no risk taking ever again because it is hammered. And that means vulnerability is shut down, which means honesty is shut down, which means there's a lack of communication that's transparent, which means nobody will take feedback, and it starts this whole cycle down. Is that what happened to this team that remains unknown?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it has to.
And what they don't understand, what a lot of coaches don't understand, a lot of businesses don't understand, is the one time you go there out of your own anger, your own fear, it only takes one time. And it takes 10,000, you got this, for a person to become a risk taker and creative and speak up in a meeting and, have a go again. And what Richmond did so beautifully is that they had the courage to commit to it. If we lose, we commit to it. We celebrate us having a crack. We celebrate that we tried to do it. We celebrated, we were guided by this word celebration. We always talked about that our B game ripcord. If you're in the B game and you couldn't get out, your ripcord was to help someone else.
Yes.
Just go into full help someone else mode. You know, just like, how can I make him better? How can I make him better? Because in that, and there's a whole lot of science behind it. When I'm focused on you and helping you, I'm not in fear. But Richmond just had the courage to fully embrace that in every moment, not just the moments where we were doing well.
Why? Why do you think why do you think they were willing to do that?
You know, very similarly to the decision that we made in the corridor of the hospital, Damien Hardwick and Trent Cotchin, the captain, the heads made a decision that it's not working for us this way. We're going to have to do it another way, and it's going to have to look radically different. And, you know, counting numbers and statistics and, you know, ridiculing people and using fear is not working. So let's just go the other way. It was literally a choice that they made. You're
going to start a football coach academy, aren't you?
No.
It's not your thing?
They're not ready for it. They want what Richmond have. They want their results.
They want the outcome, but it's a bit like you don't want to you want the bicep without doing that.
Yeah. They, you know, people believe that they can't, like, oh, easy for you, you know, easy for Richmond to say they've won 2 premierships, right? Easy for them to joke around before the game and do all this, you know, because they're so arrogant. It's like, no, you don't get it. We do that stuff so we play well. We're not, you know, we've made a commitment to fun. We've made a commitment to helping each other. We've made a commitment to celebration so we play well. But these people think that they don't have a choice. Like, how could I not get angry in that moment? You know, like, I get what you're saying, but in that moment, they needed to be told. And it's like, well, you can choose that. You know, if you're yelling at your kids and someone rings you on your mobile, your boss rings you on your mobile phone, you can pick up the phone and go, hello. You can.
So true.
Choose in the hard moments, choose not to look at strengths rather than we talk about that we have one focus. My framework is based on this concept that we have one focus and that our focus is like one of those camping head torches. And if it's shining up my B game, what if I fail? What if I get this wrong? Why did I make that mistake? My A game's in the dark. I can't be in both. And as a coach or as another player, it's our responsibility to pick up someone's flashlight and put it on their A game.
As many times as it takes. It's like when they teach us, when we learn coaching, if you're going to drive and stare at the wall, you're going to hit the wall. You've got to drive it. You've got to look in the direction you want to be driving. You're doing the same thing with AFL.
So, you know, parenting, get your kids' flashlight and put it on their A game. But we don't. We put it on their B game, you know. Yeah. Oh, have you studied enough? Don't make that mistake. Make sure you do this. Just say, you know what? Pick up your flashlight. You've done the work. You're a great student. You've been to every class. You've always listened. You've got great concentration. Go in there and use it. You know what to do. Oh, okay. I might sit down in my A game.
That is fantastic. It really is. I didn't get to 2% of what I thought I was doing. I love it. So what would be a way to wrap this up, you amazing woman? What would be an amazing last message, or what are you drawing on right now to sit in a place where you have the stillness amongst the uncertainty?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
I think do not put the weight and pressure of having the right answer or finding your purpose or having the amazing business plan. Like if you're sitting in fear and worry right now, and I haven't said this on this call, but in the first few weeks of coronavirus, lost every cent of my income. Like I'm not sitting in an ivory tower telling people, don't worry, because I'm sitting sweet. Like every single thing I've ever worked for fell over in the first 2 weeks of coronavirus. So
wow.
I'm saying, one, don't sit in what you've lost. but also don't sit in the panic of I've got to get it right and I have to have the answer. Just start with a level of curiosity around what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what do I want it to look like. Just use a more gentle word of curiosity. There's no right or wrong way to do curiosity. Some people like to journal. Just write down everything in your head when you wake up in the morning. I hate that, but I crave sitting still with my eyes closed. I don't know. I've been a mindfulness teacher for 20 years. I don't even know if I'm doing it right, but I get the answers I need. Yeah. It makes me feel the way I want to feel in the day. I don't need to go to restaurants and go here and there and everywhere to be, get that sense of joy. I can get it going in and listening. Oh my God, you just get so many amazing ideas and answers. Some days it's horrific and I get tears and I get frustration. Just write it out with curiosity, I would say right now.